Everyone ignored this sick lion, but one man refused to walk away. The sun burns orange across the endless African savanna, casting long shadows through the acacia trees. The wind carries whispers of dust and distant animal calls, but there's something different in the air. Today something heavy, like sorrow itself, has settled over this forgotten corner of the world. Wide shot of the savanna at golden hour, with a single dirt road cutting through tall grass. Abandoned and cracked from years of neglect, Dr. Samuel Cohn had been driving the same dusty road for 3 hours, his Jeep bouncing over rocks and holes that seemed to grow deeper each time he passed. He wasn't supposed to be here. The research station had been closed for months, funding cut, dreams abandoned. But Samuel couldn't let go. Not when the animals still needed him. Close-up of weathered hands gripping a steering wheel, then a tired face with kind eyes scanning. The horizon. His radio crackled with static. "Sam, you there? The villagers are talking about that lion again. The sick one. They say it's been there for days now. Just ... waiting." Samuel's heart sank. He'd heard the stories. A magnificent male. Lion, once the pride of his territory, now reduced to skin and bones, lying beneath the same tree day after day. The local rangers had given up. "Nothing we can do," they'd said. "Nature will take its course." But Samuel had never been good at walking away. A lone lion lying motionless under a massive baobab tree, ribs visible through matted fur, eyes closed, but breathing shallow. As his Jeep crested the hill, Samuel saw him. The lion was exactly where the villagers said he'd be under, the ancient baobab tree that had stood guard over this land for 1,000 years. Even from a distance, Samuel could see the animal's suffering. His golden coat was dull and patchy, his magnificent mane reduced to thin strands clinging to his neck. Samuel parked 50 meters away and just sat there for a moment, watching. The lion's sides rose and fell with labored breaths. This wasn't just illness. This was a creature who had given up hope. The lion slowly opens one eye, a piercing amber gaze that holds both pain and ancient wisdom. "Hey there, big guy," Samuel whispered, stepping out of his Jeep with slow, careful movements. "I know you're hurting. I know everyone's given up on you. But I'm here now." The lion's head lifted slightly, those amber eyes focusing on this stranger who dared to approach. There was no aggression, no warning growl, just exhaustion and something that looked almost like curiosity. Samuel had treated hundreds of wild animals, but something about this lion was different. In those eyes, he saw not just an animal, but a soul carrying the weight of abandonment. The same feeling Samuel had carried since losing his own family in the accident 3 years ago. Samuel kneeling at a safe distance, medical bag beside him, extending his hand palm up in a gesture of peace. "The thing is," Samuel said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I know what it's like when everyone walks away. When they decide you're not worth the effort anymore." The lion's ear twitched. Samuel took it as permission to come closer. Hours passed. Samuel didn't try to touch the lion, not yet. He simply sat nearby, talking softly, sharing water from his canteen by pouring it into his hands and letting it pool on the ground. The lion watched every movement and slowly, impossibly, began to drink. The lion's pink tongue tentatively lapping water from Samuel's cupped hands. The first sign of trust. As the sun began to set, Samuel heard vehicles approaching. His heart raced as 3 Jeeps filled with local rangers and officials pulled up. The lead ranger, Marcus, jumped out with a rifle in his hands. "Dr. Cohn, step away from the animal. We've got orders to put it down. It's suffering, and it's become a danger to the village." "A danger?" Samuel stood slowly, positioning himself between the lion and the guns. "Look at him, Marcus. He can barely lift his head. He's not dangerous. He's dying of loneliness." The lion struggling to stand, swaying on weak legs, positioning himself beside Samuel, as if understanding the threat. "That's exactly why we need to end this," Marcus replied, raising his rifle. "It's the humane thing to do." "Give me 3 days," Samuel pleaded. "Just 3 days to try to help him. If I can't make a difference, I'll step aside." The rangers exchanged glances. 3 days felt like forever when you were staring at a dying lion. But something in Samuel's voice, The same desperation they'd all felt at one time or another made them hesitate. 3 days, Marcus said finally. But if that lion makes any aggressive moves, we're done talking. The rangers driving away as dust clouds swirl around Samuel and the lion, alone again under the darkening sky. That night, Samuel slept in his jeep, windows down, listening to the lion's labored breathing. Twice he woke to find those amber eyes, watching him through the darkness. There was something almost human in that gaze, a recognition that they were both lost souls who had somehow found each other. That morning brought new challenges. The lion was weaker, and Samuel could see infected. Wounds along his flank, old injuries that had never properly healed. But more than that, he could see the deeper wound, the spirit of a creature who had been abandoned by his pride, left to die alone. Samuel gently cleaning the lion's wounds with antiseptic. The lion lying still and trusting, their faces inches apart. I lost my family too, Samuel whispered as he worked. Car accident. They said it was quick, that they didn't suffer. But I suffered. I suffered because I wasn't there, because I was always working, always trying to save everyone else's family instead of spending time with my own. The lion's breathing had steadied. He was listening. After they died, I kept working, kept saving animals because I couldn't save them. And you know what? Every creature I helped reminded me that I had failed the ones who mattered most. A flashback sequence. Samuel with his wife and young daughter laughing around a campfire. Then the devastating phone call that changed everything. Samuel's hands shook as he applied bandages to the lion's wounds. But maybe that's not the story. Maybe the story is that we're both still here, both still fighting, both still capable of love. The lion's massive paw slowly moved closer to Samuel's knee. Not threatening dash, just ... connecting. On the second day, Samuel noticed something remarkable. The lion was eating. Not much, but he was accepting the meat Samuel offered. More importantly, he was responding to Samuel's voice, his presence. When Samuel walked to the jeep, the lion's head would follow. When Samuel sat down, the lion would adjust his position to stay close, the lion taking small bites of meat from Samuel's hands, their eyes meeting in a moment of perfect understanding, but their peace was shattered by the sound of approaching vehicles. This time, it wasn't just rangers. A group of poachers had heard about the sick lion and decided he'd make an easy trophy. They arrived with guns, ropes, and the kind of cruelty that comes from seeing animals as objects instead of souls. That's a fine-looking mane, even if the rest of him is skin and bones, the lead poacher sneered. Should fetch a good price. Samuel stood up slowly, his heart pounding. This lion is under protection. You need to leave, now. Protection? The poacher laughed. From who? A bleeding heart vet and a dying cat? The lion, sensing danger, struggling to stand beside Samuel despite his weakness, a low growl building in his throat. That's when something extraordinary happened. The lion, who had been too weak to stand for days, rose to his full height beside Samuel. His mane might have been thin, his body frail, but his spirit blazed with protective fury. The poachers raised their weapons, but they hesitated. There was something in the lion's stance, something in the way he positioned himself beside Samuel, that spoke of a bond deeper than fear. You want him? Samuel said, his voice steady despite the terror in his chest. You'll have to go through me first. The lion's growl deepened, not threatening Samuel, but warning the poachers. In that moment, they were no longer man and beast, they were family. They were two souls who had found each other in the darkness and refused to let go. The poachers. Backing away as the lion and Samuel stand side by side, the setting sun creating a golden halo around them. The standoff lasted forever and only seconds. Finally, the lead poacher spat in the dust and turned away. Not worth the trouble, he muttered. Things probably diseased anyway. As the poachers drove away, Samuel collapsed to his knees. Adrenaline, leaving him shaking. The lion moved closer, pressing his massive head against Samuel's shoulder. For the first time in 3 years, Samuel felt the weight of grief begin to lift. We did it, friend, he whispered. We protected each other. The lion nuzzling Samuel's face gently. A moment of pure connection between two beings who had saved each other The third day brought the Rangers back, as promised. But they found something they hadn't expected. The lion was standing, moving, eating. His wounds were healing, his spirit returning. And beside him sat Samuel, no longer the broken man who had arrived 3 days ago. "I don't understand," Marcus sighed, lowering his rifle. "He was dying. We all saw it." "He was," Samuel replied, his hand resting on the lion's mane. "But he wasn't dying from disease. He was dying from loneliness, from being abandoned. Sometimes that's the deadliest sickness of all." The lion walking slowly but steadily beside Samuel, both of them moving away from the baobab tree, toward a future neither had imagined. The Rangers watched in amazement as Samuel and the lion walked together toward the jeep, not as master and animal, but as equals, as friends who had found healing in each other's presence. But the most remarkable part was still to come. As Samuel opened the jeep door, the lion stopped. Those amber eyes looked at him with what could only be described as gratitude. Then the magnificent creature looked toward the horizon, toward the wild savanna where he belonged. "I know," Samuel said softly. "You're ready now. You're strong enough to find your way home." The lion stepped closer, pressing his forehead against Samuel's chest one last time. In that gesture was everything they couldn't say in words. "Thank you. I won't forget you. You saved me. We saved each other." The lion walking away into the golden grassland, pausing once to look back at Samuel, then disappearing into the wild, where he belonged. Samuel stood by his jeep long after the lion had disappeared, tears streaming down his face. But these weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of joy. For the first time since the accident, he felt whole. He felt worthy of love. He felt like he could go home and start living again instead of just surviving. If stories like this touch your heart, consider subscribing for more emotional journeys like this one. Because every soul, human or animal, deserves to be seen, to be valued, to be loved. Samuel driving away as the sun sets, the camera pulling back to show the vast savanna, peaceful and eternal. 6 months later, Samuel received reports of a magnificent lion leading a new pride in the Eastern Territories. The Rangers described him as strong, healthy, and fiercely protective of his family. They said he had the most beautiful mane they'd ever seen, and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Samuel smiled when he heard the news. He had returned to his work with a new purpose, not running from his grief but carrying it as a reminder of how precious life truly is. He kept a photo on his desk, not of the lion, but of his wife and daughter. Next to it, a small piece of amber glass he'd found near the baobab tree, golden like the eyes that had saved his soul. Samuel in his new clinic, treating a wounded bird, the amber glass catching the light on his desk, because sometimes the greatest healing happens not when we save others, but when we allow ourselves to be saved. Sometimes the most profound love stories aren't between two people, but between two souls who refuse to let each other walk alone into the darkness. The baobab tree still stands guard over the savanna, its branches reaching toward the sky like prayers. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, you can still hear the echo of an old friendship, the sound of footsteps and paw prints, walking side by side toward hope. The ancient baobab tree at sunset, its massive trunk casting long shadows across the golden grass, eternal and peaceful. Not all friendships need words. Some are written in the dust of the savanna, in paw prints beside human footsteps, in the quiet moments when two lost souls find each other and choose to heal together. Thank you for watching till the end. If this story moved you, we'd be honored to have your support, because every story of love and redemption deserves to be shared, and every soul deserves to know they're not alone in this beautiful, wild world we call home.